Bet you can't stick it, Master Chief.
Oh, I can stick it.
Halo 2 is a first-person shooter released in 2004 by Bungie for the Xbox and later for the PC.
This isn't working.
It is the sequel to the groundbreaking Halo Combat Evolved and, like its predecessor, it received critical acclaim, arguably even more so than the original. So why review the game around 20 years later? Well, I reviewed Combat Evolved and Lord knows I have the time. The game also received a remaster and unlike the last one, Halo 2's Anniversary Edition was well received, so I will be playing with RTX on.
Hey, don't look at me that way. Who are you to judge me?
When it comes to gameplay, there obviously may be some instances where I'm echoing what I said in Combat Evolved, as this is a direct sequel to that game. As for spoilers, the game is 2 decades old, I'm going to talk about everything, you've been warned. The game features multiplayer and, look, I'll be honest, I'm more interested in the single player game and it's beyond the scope of this video to accurately review all of the balance issues, the connectivity, everything else. That is a review I'd write after playing multiplayer for weeks. I'm going to very quickly mention how great the Halo community is. You all offered advice, feedback, explanations and assessments on my Combat Evolved video, yet not a single one of you guys said skill issue. You're all very kind. Okay, enough fucking rambling, onto the gameplay. As requested, I launch straight into Legendary difficulty and nothing happens. I get stuck on a black screen. Okay, let's try that again. Much better. The game begins with a beautifully rendered cutscene of the Covenant Council grilling an alien commander for his failure. It turns out this was the guy in charge of the operation to take control of the Halo. That didn't work out like they planned, and now the Council are being right pricks about it, just like every science fiction council ever.
But we do not grant you the rank of Master.
What?
Our inability to safeguard Halo was a colossal failure.
It was heresy.
What?
We then cut to the Cairo, a defense platform orbiting Earth, where a Marine is being given a dressing down for returning with broken gear.
You know how expensive this gear is, son?
Tell that to the Covenant.
We're then given control of the Chief, and I go through some basic maneuvering tutorials, and just given the chance to move around the room with some great dialogue from Sergeant Gunner.
Careful, you'll tear a tendon doing that.
Unintentional joke here, I misread his name as Sergeant Gunner. He is in fact the gunnery sergeant. Look, it's an easy mistake to make. We step into the shield testing device, and then I get 2 amazing things in a row.
You can see they recharge a lot faster.
Music to my ears, faster shield recharge. Thank you.
That, or he can hide behind me.
And Johnson is back. Let's fucking go. We ride with Johnson as he talks about the Earth defense stations equipped with Mac railguns. These are guns capable of punching a hole in Covenant ships.
That Mac gun can put a round clean through a Covenant capital ship.
In fact, according to the books, because you guys told me to read the books and I listened to the audiobooks, same thing but different, one of the only weapons the UNSC has at this time that do anything to Covenant ships, which is why they built 3 of them. We then have this amazing cinematic where the Chief and Johnson are decorated for their valor, and Keyes is honoured posthumously with a medal awarded to his daughter because he fucking died. As this is happening, the video is intercut with scenes of the alien commander being humiliated, punished and tortured for his failure. This is a genius bit of storytelling, both visually and just clever on a parallels level. Then the alarms sound. Covenant forces are en route and they seek to take out the Mac emplacements. Time to go to work.
Better late than never, sir.
This woman is talking my language. Before I go any further, let me just say I got into ball-stomping territory way faster than I expected. I think I could beat this game on Legendary difficulty.
Excellent. It'll take 15 years and a research team of 100.
But the truth is I want to play it more like Rambo, and I'm not good enough to do that without getting shot at. So I set it to heroic and we go again. And look, different dialogue for us.
Chief, about time you showed up.
And as we descend the stairs, I am treated to 2 words strung together that make me smile. Dual wield. I'd seen the cover, of course. I knew dual wielding guns was in here. They don't make you wait for it, they know what players want and they give it to you. And this opening with the Covenant ship docking outside, the sparks of the laser cutter, and the following shootout as they attempt to board the Cairo is fantastic. And it leads into fighting through the area you passed over earlier in the monorail with Johnson. Nice bit of foreshadowing. The most important part of Halo is the gunplay, so let's talk about it. And of course we start with dual wielding. The ability to just pick up another gun and dual wield it is absolutely phenomenal. And unlike other games where dual wielding means two of the same gun, in Halo there are no such limitations. You may see me holding two SMGs here, but there is nothing stopping me from replacing one of those with a plasma pistol. Handling the weapons is insanely simple. Left click to fire one gun, right click to fire another. This could be the end of it, but Halo is not that sort of game. You see, there are two types of weapons in Halo 2. UNSC projectile weapons and Covenant energy weapons. Projectile weapons fire with no drawback besides recoil, so long as you have ammo in that baby. Eventually the mag will run empty, then you need to reload. Energy weapons have charge instead of ammo. This means they never need to be reloaded. You can fire as much as you want until the charge is depleted, then toss it and pick up a new one. This makes the Covenant the galaxy's worst litterers. Energy weapons, however, can overheat. Leave those suckers on full vibrate for too long and they'll burn out. I made both those jokes already because unlike the Covenant, I do recycle. Part of the genius of Halo is that overheating and reloading both create a similar problem with a similar punishment, while giving the player different ways to manage these systems. Reloading takes time, cooling down takes time. Both of these can leave you feeling naked. You're having a real Master Cheeks moment. This encourages you to manage your ammo and strategize when you reload, and you watch your temperature gauge and manage when you stop firing plasma. Great gunplay, same as Combat Evolved. Then dual wielding walks in like a Chad and says, hey, I've been thinking, what if we added more management gameplay, giving the players more to deal with but rewarding them for doing it? So let's say you got two SMGs. You don't need to reload them both at the same time. Well, now every single thing I said just goes out the fucking window. You fire one SMG, then when you sense it getting low, you start firing the other one, and you watch as your first one reloads automatically. I don't even need to hit the reload key, it just happens. I can manually reload them by tapping the key, but this is insanely good. I'm blown away that this was 2004. Of course, I could just hold them both down for more damage. The recoil for firing both SMGs is fucking insane, and fighting against the recoil while popping off is the most satisfying part of this whole game. But again, I'm not limited to doubling up. I can pick up a plasma rifle and an SMG. So now I've got one gun I can fire until it's empty, and another I can fire until it overheats. This changes everything again. I've always got a backup plan if one gun stops. It also rewards the player for being able to manage these two weapon types at the same time. The game even merges the reticles for the two different guns. One thing I will say is the ammo counters are right in the top corners of the screen. I don't mind that, and the truth is after a while you tend to get a feeling for the guns and how long you can fire from full to empty, and if you don't, the game will tell you. You'll see low ammo or battery warnings in the middle of the screen. These not only warn you of problems you'll be facing, but give you time to plan, as they change from yellow to red to indicate the severity of the problem. It is harder to keep watch on the overheating meter than it was in Combat Evolved, however there is visual feedback on the weapons to show their temperature, and again you can get a sense for when to cool off after playing for a while. Picking up a gun identical to the one you're carrying will always replace the lowest ammo gun or charge gun you have. That's wonderful quality of life. I occasionally end up going ham and overheating and running out of ammo all at the same time, and that's part of the fun. There are a couple of drawbacks to dual wielding as well. First of all, my brain. Picking up a semi-automatic gun like the plasma pistol and wielding that alongside an automatic gun is totally doable, giving you constant damage from the SMG and powerful damage from the pistol. However, it fried my brain having to repeatedly click one gun while holding down the other. It's like rubbing your belly and patting your head at the same time. This is a personal issue and I'm not complaining. The tools are there for dual wielding, but so are the rules for each individual gun. This is a plus. And dual wielding double plasma pistols with double charged energy shots, holy moly. You can't throw grenades or melee attack when dual wielding, obviously you need to free your hand first. Attempting to melee or throw a grenade will cause the chief to just throw the gun away and do what you wanted. That's great for the player, no time lost at all. This does mean you might lose your preferred weapon in a pile somewhere, but as is the general feeling for Halo, you're made to feel like a Spartan. You'll find another one soon enough, on somebody else's body. Speaking of, you can swap weapons with allies, so if they have one you want, you take it. You can do this pretty early on, but it's introduced to the player as well in Chapter 3.
It's tight quarters on the other side, sir. Use this.
I like this. This teaches players that they can swap weapons with NPCs, and also that different guns have different strengths. As if, however, I needed any excuse to take the shotgun. The shotgun, like other two-handed guns, cannot be dual-wielded, which makes perfect sense. Dual-wielding is a fun gameplay option you never have to use, not even once. But you should, because it's an absolute blast. Meanwhile, things are going well on the Cairo, with some amazing firefights across the station, in UNSC corridors reminiscent of the first chapter of CE. And to everyone's surprise, the Malta manages to repel the Covenant first, even without the Chief's help. Guess they didn't need me after all. Then we see it. These MAC cannons are the only thing keeping the Covenant fleet from approaching. The boarding parties are just here to drop off a bomb and leave. What follows feels far more tense. This is no longer just defending the station, it's a race to the Covenant bomb. And there are great set pieces in what could have been just a meandering corridor chase. But no. There's a wonderful segment with a Cloaking elite to shake things up. You can see how tense I am here, checking corners and taking cover. This guy has killed me about 5 times now by coming up from behind, with just one enemy placement, and this beautifully lit corridor providing crossing cover in exposed areas. Halo 2 succeeds in completely changing the pace of the game without slowing it down. This is a chess match between me and the Cloaking elite, right before we approach a room beneath the Quartermaster where we started the game. We just hear him putting up a fight before he's killed by Covenant troops.
Call your friends, I got enough ammo for a... Ah!
You better believe I get up there and blow those 2 away. Although I do it very carefully, peeping out from behind cover every few seconds. I'm angry, but I'm not crazy. Then there is a spacewalk section with Covenant astronauts. This is really cool, and the flying enemies here make sense because they're in a zero gravity environment. Plus, they're well balanced because they have aerial superiority over you, but as a consequence, they're easier to hit as they lack cover in the air. Also, they don't feel as tanky to take down compared to their ground assault brethren. It's a nice trade-off. This is the difference between a well-balanced flying opponent and an unbalanced opponent. Then I enter into a large open hangar, and what the hell are these things? Let's see. Extremely mobile, small hitbox, high rate of fire, and nigh impossible to hit without hit scan. Yeah, here we have the Echo enemy, aka Annoying Bullshitimus. My first real complaint isn't these bugs, however. No. Remember that little line where the Quartermaster says your shield recharges faster? Well, it's true, it does. However, in the worst way possible. The shield takes less time to go from 0 to 100% when you're in cover. The cooldown period before that happens is as bad as before, as in the recharging time is faster, but the time you're waiting for that recharge to start is painfully long. Running to cover is fun, pushing as hard as you can, running and gunning, throwing grenades, then popping behind a crate when your shields burst. That is so exciting. But then you're just awkwardly waiting behind cover for that arbitrary cooldown before the shield regenerates. This is personal preference and it's nothing dire, but I'd have taken a slower shield recharge and a shorter cooldown. I imagine this is for multiplayer balancing, but there is absolutely no reason at all for single player to have this. Stuff like this just ruins the pacing. I mean, look at this. I have time to check my fucking phone. What I only just realised while writing this is that your health bar is gone. I legitimately played through the whole game, wrote this review, and just scrolled back up here to say, oh yeah, no health packs, because you just don't have a health bar anymore. You have a shield, and when it goes down you can take a reasonable amount of damage, but it's hard to gauge just how much, and then you're dead. I do not miss health packs, that's personal preference. Some people might. For Halo 2, I think it was the right choice, because those health packs with the old checkpoints, I ripped out a lot of hair. Speaking of, the checkpoints are mostly well placed, with a couple of exceptions where I died and I got sent back quite a distance, but nothing is anywhere near as bad as Truth and Reconciliation. After navigating the ship both inside and out through more fantastic spaces, we approach the Covenant bomb, which has been made by orcs as it's covered in spikes.
Me inside your head now.
Bruh. This is a very dangerous sentence for a Zana enjoyer. Speaking of brainworm girls, Cortana's look has obviously evolved since the first game and she looks a lot more coherent and polished. She's got more flair to match her personality and we like a few more polygons, so that's a yes from me. Game of the year. However, in this instance, I'm talking about the remastered cinematics and the original visuals. More on visuals later, I'm just setting up a point for later. With the fastest connection speed in the universe, the Chief downloads Cortana into his helmet and she disarms the Covenant bomb just in the nick of time. Then he says what I like to think every single Halo player was hoping he would say.
Permission to leave the station.
For what purpose, Master Chief?
To give the Covenant back their bomb.
I'm not entirely sure how the Chief survives what is clearly a massive explosion, but I imagine crashing into the ship on the way back didn't help. But the fight hasn't even begun. Without so much as a coffee break, we're told we're touching down after a Covenant ship made it through. Alien forces are wreaking havoc in the African city of New Mombasa. It's time to go down there and welcome the Covenant to Earth. What better way to do that than with a shit ton of firepower? Let's talk about the guns. Once again, I am not a gun nut. Most of what I know comes from listening to Major Carter.
It carries a 50-round top-loading magazine of Teflon-coated ordnance with a cyclical rate of fire of 900 rounds per minute.
But I'll try to use the correct terms where possible. I'm going to open with a personal sad note. The MA5B assault rifle is gone in single player. I realise it's been supplanted by the SMG, but I think it was such a wonderful gun and as much a part of the Chief's look as his helmet. For your two-handed rifle this outing, you instead have the BR-55 battle rifle. Battle rifle go brrr. This is a 3-round burst fire weapon. It's highly accurate and far more deadly than the MA5B. It also features a scope which serves it well as it's got a long effective range. I'm sure it's great, but I hate burst rifles and didn't really use it unless I absolutely had to. My weapon of choice was the M7 SMG and it's absolutely the golden boy of Halo 2. It has a boatload of ammo capacity, you find magazines everywhere and you can just go crazy with it. Firing one of these bad boys is enough to wipe out unshielded enemies pretty quickly and 2 of them will give even an elite pause for thought. The only drawback to these guns is that they take a significant time to reload, which is fair enough given how much mileage you can get from one mag, and serves to balance well against the battery powered weapons and the dual wield system. In fact, it even bears some mechanical resemblance to the real-world P90, a gun so good that around 40 nations over the world use it in military service, and the gun that they use on my beloved Stargate SG-1. There are differences. The Halo wiki tells me that the P90 uses a top-loaded magazine that feeds cased 5.7x 28mm rounds horizontally, while the M7 fires 5x 23mm caseless rounds.
We're concerned.
Again, not a gun nut, I just like watching girls shoot.
Nothing gets between me and my AK.
The M6C Magnum is the UNSC's pistol this time around, and it is honestly underwhelming. It's the worst fucking gun in the game. It lacks the zoom of the Combat Evolved pistol and also feels nowhere near as punchy. What I did love was the SRS-99C-S2 AM sniper rifle. Sheesh, and if you call it that every time, you'd be dead before you got it out. It is, however, very satisfying to fire, accurate with a great scope that zooms in cleanly without any fuss. Taking damage knocks you out of the scope. Now, I'm not fond of that, but I respect it as a design choice because if an enemy takes damage, they get knocked out of a scope too. That's clever. The M90 shotgun returns, and as far as I'm concerned, everything else can go home. It's powerful, it's got punch, you can fire it without a full reload, and pretty much anything that gets hit by it is dead or staggered, and then dead. The rocket launcher is as good as before and features a lock-on system, although it's easy to jump the gun on this and waste a rocket. Still, fun to use, and I love the fast travel time on the rockets, reminds me of the old UT rocket launchers. This time around, there are some ammo-based Covenant weapons, so I'll go over them, starting with the Vostu carbine rifle. It fires very fast and has decent damage and good range, but I must admit, I didn't find this a particularly satisfying weapon to fire. A solid gun, yes, but I'd rather have an SMG. What I did like was the Brute Shot. It's a grenade launcher, and the grenades can bounce off walls. That's all I need to say. It's a lot of fun to fire and it's great for taking out tightly grouped packs of enemies or one guy whose day you just want to ruin. Also, its rate of fire is obscene. The fuel rod gun is the Covenant's answer to the rocket launcher. It handles a little differently with a smaller explosion than the launcher, but it fires a lot faster, and that's always fun. This beautiful purple hedgehog gun is of course the Needler, and it has been redeemed in my eyes since Combat Evolved. It fires homing crystal projectiles that fly through the air and stick into enemies. That's painful enough, but the best bit about them is they explode. And if you fire enough crystals into someone, they explode spectacularly. Flying through the air, dual wielding 2 of these, just watching the crystals glide around like mesmerizing shards of purple death is amazing. They also offer a way to deal with enemies in light cover, as they can curve their flight path so long as they can home in. The battery weapons are of course the returning plasma pistol. I didn't get as much use out of this as the CE variant, where it was pretty much my go-to after the assault rifle, but with the dual wielding being so much fun, I just found it messed me up unless I had 2 of them. And the power shot doesn't home in on targets as cleanly as before. In fact, I found it often missing entirely unless I was pointing right at my target. Still a good weapon, but my plasma weapon of choice goes to the plasma rifle. High rate of fire, high damage, hold down and forget. The accuracy is worse, but you don't really care because you're a plasma spitting machine with 2 of these. And my left mouse button will last a lot longer if I don't have to fire every bolt myself. Halo 2 has 2 other energy weapons with the heat mechanic, and these ones are not plasma based, they are directed energy weapons. Worf is pleased. The sniper rifle has a Covenant equivalent in the Sulok pattern beam rifle. This is basically the same as the sniper rifle functionally, and overheats after about 3 shots. Its battery has a max of 18 shots before the weapon is spent. There's no real winner here for me, it's just nice to have variety. The other weapon is the Sentinel Beam, and this comes in 2 versions, regular heat beam and blue superheated beam. We'll call these underwhelming and good respectively, as in the regular heat beam is only really good against flood enemies, while the superheated beam is just a lot of fun. The weapon overheats so fast given its lackluster damage that it annoyed me. Maybe it's just in my head, but it's such a cool looking weapon that ultimately left me wanting more. But again, it excels in its task of mowing down flood enemies, so I can't really complain even here. I won't let my personal preferences get in the way of saying that every weapon in Halo 2 is made to fill a role and does so well. Even if you don't like all of them, there is a gun in here for you, and among the expanded arsenal, none of them feel like filler, except maybe the Magnum pistol, which is truly just bad, and unfortunate for what was a classic gun. There is one thing, however, all the gun models are large. I realise this is a look for Halo, but when you're dual wielding, these things take up so much of the screen, and it's noticeable just how much of your vision is being obscured. But yeah, no more weapons to talk about. None. Aside from the fact that you can pick up the elite energy swords now. Oh yeah, let's go, look at this. Oh, I feel like such a badass. Okay, it just gets smacked down instantly with this. Real talk, the energy sword is a powerful melee weapon that absolutely obliterates unshielded enemies. It can take out grunts and jackals in a single swipe, and even later enemies called brutes in just 2 hits. Shielded elites, however, are a different story. You need to whittle away that shield a bit first, or just make sure you get the first hit in from behind, because they can take a few strikes from the sword to their shield. You cannot. I think the decision to let the player have this is genius. It's already an iconic design, hell, unlike any other sword I've seen. Plus, it warms those memories of getting hacked apart in Combat Evolved. There's just a really satisfying feel to it, and although it takes a while to learn when to use it, it's worth it. The classic frag grenade is back, bouncing and rolling before exploding, as is the Covenant's plasma grenade that sticks to surfaces and enemies. As before, each weapon has degrees of accuracy, and the targeting reticles will change for each weapon depending on where you can expect to hit, which is why dual wielding combining them is just a stroke of genius, because even if you're not paying attention to which reticle is which, you can brainlessly fire both and still know where you'll hit. Of course, you don't just have great gunplay in Halo, you also have vehicles. Once again, Halo doesn't keep me waiting long before planting the old faithful in front of me. The Warthog, and on a beach no less.
Oh man, I love the beach.
As before in real life, I am a good driver. In video games, not so much. The steering for vehicles is handled by the mouse, at least for a mouse and keyboard. You hold W to accelerate and steer via the mouse. This is fine.
Oh man, right on the grill.
The Warthog controls largely the same as before, but I personally think the handling is a lot better this time around. You can pull off some really good turns. There's also a little horn and powerful brakes. As before, you get Marine buddies to shoot out the passenger seat or the minigun turret. While you could get on the turret yourself before, I never had Marines actively drive me anywhere. However, this time around you can get your hands on the minigun and a Marine will drive for you. That sounds amazing, doesn't it? Unfortunately, this bloke drives like Miss Daisy, so you will die before you ever get anywhere to shoot anything.
Jesus. You got more room than you think. Straight back.
However, on the other end of the spectrum, this guy drives like me and is a real blast. Especially since his Warthog comes equipped with some sort of anti-tank rocket launcher thing. Oh, this is so much fun. The Warthog is still my favourite vehicle, but fuck it if I didn't flip it and get another Marine killed.
Watch out, Chief! Brace on the far side!
The Covenant's answer to the Warthog is the Spectre. Mounted turret on the back, passenger seat to shoot out of, and a driving seat. It's literally copied homework. Alright Gorbaz, what you got for us? Remember, the whole vehicle development team has been waiting weeks to see this. Gorbaz, you've clearly just taken a human Warthog and slapped a hoverboard on the bottom. Don't have a problem with this. It makes sense they'd have a vehicle to fill the same role as we do. They also have the Ghost, and it's largely the same as before, but with a little speed boost option, and I think it's a little tankier, although maybe that's my imagination. A hover vehicle with high fire rate plasma cannons, it's a solid option for navigating Halo's levels because it makes you feel like a very dangerous hummingbird. There is one thing about the Ghost, however, and that this time around it flips like you wouldn't believe. I think they really needed to raise it up higher or just make it less flip prone. It hovers, for crying out loud. How can I flip something that hovers? The Banshee is still hit and miss, a Covenant flying vehicle with plasma cannons. It's essential when you need to get to a place out of reach, but otherwise I'd rather not. There are some frustrating sections of the game that require you to use it, like this shootout in a gas cloud. Another segment much later wants you to provide cover to a Scarab and clear out a canyon. I tried that for about 30 seconds and thought, fuck this, so I dropped down, hijacked a Wraith and blew everything to Kingdom Come. That's right, I said hijack, because in Halo 2, you can hijack every vehicle you see, whether it's a Ghost, a Warthog, or a damn tank. You get close enough, if you can get close enough without dying, and then punch the pilot off. Or you just straight up punch the tank and plant a grenade inside. This is a lot of fun, and a great way to help get the player into a vehicle if they've lost theirs, and rewards them for pulling off a dangerous maneuver. The Wraith, by the way, is the Covenant tank lobbing these blue plasma balls, and nothing breaks a UNSC soldier like blue balls. Unlike the Scorpion, it has a mortar rather than a cannon, with a curved firing arc. Those Covenant tanks have curved firing arcs. Is this a problem? No, because I found it easier to shoot things out of the sky in the Wraith than in my flying Banshee. It's as slow as the Scorpion, but has the advantage of being able to lob plasma over obstacles. It is, however, far easier to blow up. Speaking of the Scorpion, I was slightly let down by the tank in Combat Evolved. In Halo 2, the Scorpion strikes back, and it's introduced in the most satisfying way possible. We see a great walking Scarab in the distance, levelling everything around it, and we need to get closer. A Pelican drops off a Scorpion, courtesy of Johnson, with two of the best lines in the game.
Thanks for the tank. He never gets me anything.
Oh, I know what the ladies like.
And then they give us a big fuck off bridge to blow up everything that moves, and a lot of stuff that doesn't. Holy shit, this is fun. The Scorpion in Halo 2 is everything she was meant to be in Combat Evolved. As slow as a Brontosaurus, tanky, pinpoint accuracy with the cannon, and a powerful machine gun. Look at this, the cannon goes exactly where I want it to. Now, I said in Combat Evolved there were no tank controls for the Scorpion, and some kind commenters helped me out to clear up that there is relative movement, as in you can move and fire in different directions, it's just dependent on the direction of the camera, as in reverse is relative to where the camera is pointing, not where the tank is pointing. It's the same deal in Halo 2, and I still dislike that the game's tank lacks tank controls, but the whole thing at least handles better this time around. You get far greater chance to sit behind the wheel of this beast, although you're not invulnerable and can quite easily find yourself getting blown up by rocket launchers. But if you can keep it running, the game is quite happy to let you keep the Scorpion for ages, but it will eventually force you to get out, normally by making it too big to fit. Now, I wish I could say I have this problem often, but the truth is the opposite is the reality. After an amazing and brutal fight to take control of that giant walking scarab weapons platform in Mombasa, the UNSC safely disable it and commandeer it for further study so they may replicate the alien techno- No, I'm just kidding, they blow that shit up. Look at this shot right here. Chief doesn't even care how far that one piece of alien hardware could advance the human race. He looks up at the ship and he's thinking, "You're next, bitch." And Keyes agrees, asking command permission to engage the vessel.
Request permission to engage.
Negative, Commander. All Vector 2 heavies for Starside intercept.
Regret exercises the better part of valor, however, and the Covenant ship decides to open a slip space rupture. It's gonna jump inside the city.
It's gonna jump inside the city.
What sets Halo apart is there is no awkward back and forth trying to reason with the Admiralty. Suddenly the enemy ship carrying one of the main bad guys is about to get away, and in a beautiful display of common sense, Admiral Ron Perlman says, fuck it, go, rescinding his own orders from 10 seconds earlier. No court-martial, no stupid argument, just go and get it done.
There's no time, sir.
Green light to engage.
Oh, that's refreshing. We then find ourselves with the disgraced alien commander who is thrown before the prophets. They say that despite his failure, they know the council branding him as a heretic was unjust, but nonetheless the stigma will stand. However, there would be a way to assuage their fears. A group of heretics is rising. They must be put down. And by assuming the mantle of the Arbiter, his own accused heresy would be washed away as he undertakes unquestioning service. He would be the hand of the prophets. No, not that one. Expendable, but once again a true believer. Rather than die in disgrace, he chooses to fight. And this cinematic kept going. And then there was a bit more. And a part of me was wondering, hold on, am I going to play as... Yes, I had no idea you got to play as an alien. Whisper in the Storm starts off as a Covenant Special Ops unit lands on a rebel installation. You play the Arbiter, a guy having a really bad week. And it's only just begun because, oh man, this Covenant chapter is as hard as nails. Remember, I'm playing on Heroic, and I like to say I had a reasonable struggle on every chapter of the game. But Whisper in the Storm, I actually checked the difficulty to make sure I turned it off Legendary. I'm not even joking. Almost every room has at least 2 enemies with needlers, meaning you are always fighting homing projectiles. I died so much faster after emerging from cover than I ever did in previous levels, purely because I took so much damage from everywhere. Which makes sense, because like Truth and Reconciliation, this is an assault on an enemy. They're ready for me. After dying countless times, I began to learn the Arbiter sections are designed to foster a different playstyle, and I wasn't really making good use of the Arbiter's unique ability. The key difference between John Halo and the Arbiter, alien physiology aside, is that aliens don't use flashlights.
Tricky!
They have cloaking devices. Now you can live out your Jem'Hadar fantasies.
You people are no fun at all. Glad I'm not a Jem'Hadar woman.
There are no Jem'Hadar women.
Okay, let's just say you can turn invisible. That works too. It has a short cooldown and a short duration. It breaks on taking damage or attacking. This leans the Arbiter more towards an ambush and retreat style of gameplay. At first I thought the cloak was just a cool gimmick. Oh look, now you can cloak too. But when I respected the cloak, that's when these sections stopped being a brick wall and started being a fun challenge. The absolute strength of Halo over other shooters is the game knows how to work mechanics. Dual wielding isn't just there to be cool. It changes the dynamic of the game and the way you can manage your DPS uptime. Crysis had cloaking, and it definitely changed the way you played the game, but you never really had to cloak. In Halo, you feel like they added the cloak and then give the player cause to use it. Shit's too hot right now, better cloak and let my shield recharge painfully slowly. Want to take out the most dangerous target first? Cloak up. The scenarios within the level are designed to provide challenge, incentive, and opportunities to use the cloak. I also took advantage of the sheer amount of needlers the game throws at you, finally taking the hint and being happy I did, as it helped me through. This is an evolution in development versus Combat Evolved, where I was being told I really should have held onto the sniper rifle to run around the corridors of Truth and Reconciliation. As in, I would never have guessed to keep the sniper rifle for close quarters environment versus this, where the tools are right in front of me and it's obvious that I should use them. Just to be clear, I'm not complaining about the feedback. I'm grateful for any feedback. I'm just recognizing that the issue you informed me about in Combat Evolved is absent in Halo 2. After some spectacular shootouts, wonderful set pieces, and some absolutely amazing flying on my part, we find ourselves in another section of the facility.
What is it? That stench. I've smelled it before.
With an all too familiar green glow. Oh, I know who's in here. The Flood are back, but they've evolved, so I think this is a good time to talk about the enemies you'll fight. Let's kick things off with the bad. Those flying bullshit aliens can suck a dick, but it won't be mine because they're not getting near me. I have nothing good to say about them except they remind me of the flying bug monsters from Resident Evil 4, but those were good and designed to go down in a couple of shots. These bastards can eat a clip and keep flying. Awful. Bad. Worst flying enemies since the manta rays in Bayonetta and the seagulls in that Legion dungeon. Okay, let's pause here. I like to leave in my initial thoughts, especially when I'm wrong. I think it's important for a review to have initial impressions contrast with a lengthy time spent in the game. That was my knee-jerk reaction to the flying bug aliens. Later on, when they don't throw about 20 at you all at once, and you have access to more weapons, especially the Needler, they're far more manageable, and honestly, a pretty fun enemy to fight against in the beautiful open air sections. But that initial intro to the enemy type is awful. However, one thing I won't change my mind on is that getting one shot by a jackal with a sniper beam rifle, I don't care what difficulty it's on, is not fun. Let me rephrase that. It's fun once. Reloading a checkpoint and getting spawn camped by one, that's not fun. They die quickly, their only laudable feature, but nothing kills the momentum of a shootout like getting insta-killed by a tiny, annoying arsehole.
We're done here.
Think I'm overreacting? These arseholes can take down a hunter in a single shot. A hunter is a walking tank, but more on them later. At least this time around, the ones carrying shields aren't just there to waste your time, they're a lot more fun and forgiving to fight. I quite like the shield jackals this time around. They still have an advantage in the field, and it's still sometimes faster to run and melee them, but it was worth aiming for their openings. The grunts are the little bozos you see running around with all sorts of guns. They look weak, but don't be fooled. In groups they're deadly, especially when wielding needlers, as they don't even need to aim. Think small head-empty Moira mains. Underestimating the grunts will lead to your downfall, and that's part of their genius design. It's easy to focus on taking out an elite because he's clearly the bigger threat, and once you do that, the grunts will panic and scatter. So the game encourages you to take them out first, and rewards you for doing so. The game tricks you into becoming complacent when you see these non-threatening aliens running away. They look like cannon fodder. But the grunts will regain their composure and start shooting. It's easy to miss one of them at the back of the room who is waiting to last hit you. Best of all, grunts once again use turrets. This time around, however, they are far deadlier, with faster turrets set up to create kill zones you need to overcome. This is balanced by having the turrets be smaller and portable affairs, meaning you can more easily target the gunner. Then you have the shielded elites. Deadly, accurate, and can take a real beating before you see them go down. Elites come in different flavours, with various coloured armours denoting their rank, equipment, loadout and strategy. But by and large you can boil it down to rifle boys, sword enthusiasts and stealth gamers. I love cloaking enemies, and the elite cloaks are not like the Arbiters. They can stay invisible forever, and it only breaks when they take damage. They will patiently wait and reposition while in stealth, picking a good moment to ambush you. You can always spot the shimmer if you're observant, but this doesn't make them any less deadly. However, what I don't like is firing while cloaked. You can't, I can't believe I have to say this, can't fire while cloaked. It's in the manual when it comes to science fiction.
Cloaked? But a prey cannot fire when she's cloaked.
This one can.
Okay, I'm obviously joking. Of course you can make up your own rules for cloaking, but the reason these rules are there is because becoming invisible is pretty overpowered.
We will be cloaked. The cloaking device does not always make us invulnerable.
Not developing cloaking technology is the cornerstone of a peace agreement between the Federation and the Romulans.
It's a prototype for a Federation cloaking device. In the Treaty of Algeron, the Federation specifically agreed not to develop cloaking technology.
And that treaty is the biggest mistake we ever made.
That treaty has kept us in peace for 60 years.
It's literally the first thing Thrawn was searching for in the novels, because the ability to turn something invisible is pretty strong.
You should pay more attention.
Some elites will occasionally dual wield, which I especially approve of, as worlds where the enemies can do what you can do feel more engrossing to play through.
Watch yourself. Honor guards.
My favourite variety has to be the Honor Guard. The bright red and glowing yellow is just unlike any other armour in the game. All of the armour in Halo is made to look functional. Science fiction for sure, but like it serves some sort of purpose. These are just works of art, reminiscent of stained glass. And these dudes dual wield and carry swords. Badasses. I will say I found it easier to attach sticky grenades to elites in Halo 2 than Combat Evolved. I wouldn't say the AI is dumber, I would say that the level design favours tighter spaces, and maybe they toned them down because good lord, the elites in Combat Evolved were true Elden Ring sweatlords. They could light roll about 20 feet. Also, you have more time to attach a sticky by staggering them with weapons fire, as it feels like they recover more slowly in this game. The elites will still dodge, flank and take cover, and they fit the archetype of competent soldier amongst the enemies you'll face. Maybe in some instances the AI shows it's still capable of being dumb, but this happens very rarely. Why are the elites so caked up though? Someone made that curve.
Extra thick!
The hunters return, of course they do. The big gym rats who eat 5,000 calories an hour and are vulnerable to backshots. Well, who isn't? They also have soft spots on their neck, and you can shoot those too. Otherwise they are entirely plated in impenetrable armour. They still love to switch between the artillery style long range shots and up close melee bashing. They are relentless when you engage one up close and will chase you until one of you is dead, or you can somehow get far enough away for them to start shooting again. What I love is that one will tend to stay shooting while the other engages in close quarters. And look at this, here they are checking my last known position. One stays back while another investigates. That's good AI. But what about new enemies? I'm going to chat about the Flood first because although a returning enemy, they are very different. Gone are the endless swarms of crawling horrors. Although they are still present, they are far fewer in number. The bursting sack spawners return as well. Good lord, I hate that sentence. The infected enemies are the real threat here. Former humans and elites that have been taken over by the Flood and integrated into the Hive. They can make use of any weapons they were carrying at the time, and will both fire and charge at you simultaneously, throwing strategy out the window to rush you until you die. The best weapons I found for dealing with them are the energy sword and the sentinel beam. In fact, ranged weapons, in a really nice detail, will sever parts of the Flood zombies as you deal damage to them. This means you can prioritise an arm to take away their ranged capability. I'm fairly sure taking their leg off just results in them dying, but I really can't be sure because I also saw one get back up and keep fighting. This may have been another enemy being infected, however. There's so much going on in this game, it's crazy, so it's hard to describe exactly what's happening, but it's fun and I love it. 2 punches from a zombie will delete your shield, so they are as deadly as elites without swords. I found one Flood zombie with a rocket launcher. Only one, thank goodness, but lots of them with shields. I don't know how I feel about Flood enemies having shields, but I won't complain because my Halo is strong. The Brutes are the most noteworthy addition to the landscape of Halo's enemies. If the elites are scalies, skilled, righteous and honourable, then the Brutes are furries, feral, aggressive and take joy in causing pain. They're basically the backup. You'd rather have the elites fight your wars, but the Brutes will get the job done. No shields, but they do have their own version of the plasma rifle that fires red plasma, and I feel like a modern Star Trek writer saying that. The Brute plasma rifle deals less damage and is less accurate, but fires much faster, and as a result, heats up much faster as well. Remember how I said Brutes don't use shields? Well, they don't want you to either. This weapon is designed to strip through shields quickly, but more on that later. Occasionally a Brute will enrage, throwing aside any ranged weapons and assuming a lumbering stance. They will just charge at enemies, relentlessly. Being hit by a Brute once is enough to knock you a foot off the ground. Being hit twice is enough to put you a foot beneath it. Brutes can enrage if their comrades die, they take enough damage, and I think on higher difficulties, just at fucking random, which is always fun. What I love about the Brutes Enrage is that, like the Hunters, you're encouraged to make different use of the space around you. Hunters can bombard you, so it isn't always easy to take cover. In a similar vein, enraging Brutes will always melee, so cover is useless. But there are other enemies who engage in melee, so what makes these two so different? First off, the Brute's charge is faster than an elite chasing after you with a sword. You absolutely have to plan and jump out of the way if possible. Worse, the Brute's knockback can take away your ability to start running again, and the Hunters will actively work together to keep pressure on you, meaning you want to run away from the one swinging at you, but the artillery one is going to make sure you can't. There's a tactical element to these encounters. I'm not saying the elites are just blokes with swords. What I am saying is Halo is smarter than just making another enemy that gets in your face. The AI offers sufficient variation to keep the game interesting throughout, and I never thought I'd spend that long talking about a Chewbacca enemy. Overall, I love the enemy selection for Halo 2. It expands and develops from Combat Evolved and feels satisfying in almost every regard. The phenomenal Arbiter segment concludes with a corridor chase through a free-falling station. First there's a shootout in this great big tether cable room, and then there's one last straight line dash up this corridor, and it ends with an actually quite decent boss fight that follows the rules of the game. As in, if you let the heretic leader fly about too much, he will summon so many holograms they overwhelm you. But if you can get just one sticky grenade on him, he's going to be in a clickbait thumbnail because it's over. Halo plays fair even on heroic, I respect that. After that we cut back to the Chief, and if the heretic situation is insane, then for the UNSC, oh, we are so back, boys.
Could we possibly make any more noise? I guess so.
I'll chat about the story and how much I appreciate Cortana later, but for now, purely from a thematic standpoint, it feels good to be back in familiar territory. Having places a player feels at home in sequels is always a good idea, and some might say it's risky to open with unfamiliar surroundings. Look at Jurassic World 2. Okay, yeah, listen, I think the Jurassic World films are popcorn filler, and that's being kind. But the second movie? I could skip the entire first half. I love the original Jurassic Park, and they tried to recapture some of that feeling. But the result was so boring, and it just lacked any of the pacing and tension of the original Jurassic Park. The second half, however, purely on visuals alone, having this horror-inspired raptor stalking an old country mansion in the dead of night, it's genuinely brilliant, entirely new, and even if the movie was as dumb as they come, I could watch that second half over because it was fun. Why am I rambling about this? Because it wasn't the old that made that movie good, it was the new. Sometimes seeing the same old shit done with lackluster creativity kills a sequel. It can be as risky as trying something new. Halo 2 fears no such reception. We have the new, dual wielding, play as an alien, the bombarded city of Mombasa, energy sword, and we have the classics, familiar enemies, Cortana and Johnson, the forested Halo, the Warthog. It knows when to pull out the old videotapes and when to show off the new TV.
Check this out. Folds.
And landing in that drop pod, making my way around that cliff face as I got blown to bits. This is what it's all about. Oh, I love this game.
Made a huge mistake.
Big surprise.
With that said, it's a good time to talk about level design, and it's fantastic, not just because it knows to mix the old with the new. Halo 2 is very much a linear shooter, but its spaces are open and built with multiple paths in mind. It's the connections between the rooms that make the game linear, to push the player forward. Once you're in that room, you can go up, down, around, and you're rarely just funneled into a corridor. But even Halo 2's corridors are built with cover, flanking and height advantages in mind. The culture of the environment affects more than the aesthetics. The Mombassan streets are tight, winding and chaotic, contrasted with large open highways. Forerunner facilities are large, symmetrical, and swap out buildings to navigate for large machines and structural supports. The ruins range from grand courtyards to tight chambers and have the benefit of large open green areas. And the Covenant and UNSC ships are their own brand of corridors and rooms, but they're ships, that's what you would want to be fighting through. All of these areas follow the rule of having something to make it more than a straight line to the next room. It might be more than one way around, or some serious cover to cope with a pack of enemies. Halo 2 is linear in direction only, not in environmental design. The areas built with vehicles in mind are fewer and definitely smaller, but they're also longer, if that makes sense. And it's not to the detriment of the game. I think it actually helps with the pacing of Halo 2. I also like that the encounters are set up to be different for the Chief and the Arbiter. I very much felt that despite the difficulty, the game wants you to be heroic in your playstyle when donning the Mjolnir armor.
You might consider sitting this one out.
Slipping into that tight silver number, however, well, that's going to require some stealth, and the encounters are set up that way. As in, it's easy for the Chief to take cover and find some breathing room. His levels are designed that way. Look at this space as the Arbiter, just look at it. I'm being fucking railed by flying drones with plasma beams that just fly around when I take cover. I want to say this again because I'm so glad cloaking is more than a gimmick. It's a fundamental part of making it through these levels. There are some portions of every level that are what I call Spartan checks. These are tough as nails and designed to put you through your paces. They're all fun, and yes, I died a lot, but that's part of that fun. Then there is this room on GRAVEMIND, and it is not only the worst room in the entire game, but single-handedly worse than any room in Combat Evolved. And that game had the library chapter. This fucking circular room is not fun. There are many spots in Halo where cover is absolutely minimal. In fact, at the start of this chapter, there is a fantastic shootout in a throne room or whatever, with only these bollards being usable as cover. Waves of enemies coming through doors, and it's challenging, well-paced and fun. Now imagine a similar idea, only the room is circular, with 2 levels. You start on the bottom, so the enemies instantly have a height advantage over you. But they drop down to start the fight, so that's okay, right?
Wrong.
No, because the next wave of enemies comes from the top, and if you go too close to the other side of the room, another wave of enemies comes through the ground floor door. But they're brutes and jackals, so they will fight the elites and grunts for us. That's good, right?
Not this time.
No, there are so many enemy shooters, he'll be dead before he ever gets a chance to do anything. The enemies come from every angle, and there is no real safe cover here because every space can be fired into from at least 2 directions.
Game over, man! Game over!
And the time it takes for the shield to start recharging is so long it makes me feel like a little bitch sitting behind one of these space parapets. Or it ends up getting me killed because even though I'm in cover, that one needle found me. This room is just insane, and it's made as though it's an area for the Arbiter to play through with the benefit of the cloak, because you've got multiple guys coming from every side. Now I know how Piper Perry feels. Fucking hell. This isn't a Spartan check, it's a sanity check. It's a fucking awful room, and I thought if I didn't offer some sort of negative critique, this whole thing would sound like a puff piece. And Harry hates puff pieces.
But pretty soon, you want some meat and potatoes.
You do?
But for the most part, the level design is great, and I loved every minute of it. They fake you out at one part of the game with this room that looks like the old library level, but it's a trick. You hop into a vertical tube, plumber style, and go through this weird series of vertical spaces. It's great. The library even got redeemed in this game. I did pop into Easy to film some additional footage and learned you get a clearer warning when your shield goes down telling you to take cover. Your shield is also basically invincible on Easy. Fucking hell, there's even a tutorial for the flashlight. There are so many details I missed until I went back to record extra footage. For instance, the AI are not numbskulls. If you keep shooting friendlies, they will turn on you. The AI is good enough that most of your marine buddies don't die instantly anymore. I actually had one of them make it through the entire second half of Delta Halo with her shotgun. And this is the second game I've played where the AI has called me out.
Go on, take a good look. Now move out.
Never would have figured you for an ass man, Blade.
Listen, I do it for the comedy, and I can prove it because I did this 10 times to trigger that fucking voice line.
The last guy that looked at me like that, see something.
Let's make him bleed, Chief.
This Marine, by the way, is voiced by actress Michelle Rodriguez. That's great. I'm going to be honest, I'm a big fan of hers. Guess why? Also here, if I don't bother to wait for the tank, Cortana reacts appropriately.
You don't want the tank. Okay, I guess we'll leave it for the others.
I learned that different NPCs have different dialogue for swapping weapons with them, and for Johnson there's even playful acknowledgement of the growing connection between the Chief and Cortana.
You okay with this, Cortana?
The footage I used right at the beginning of the video is in fact a fan recreation of this long fought lost E3 demo. Put together by the Digsite modding team, you can play through this right now if you own Halo 2 Anniversary. It's available on the Steam Workshop and I believe the Nexus.
Bet you can't stick it.
You're on.
I can't really gush about the gameplay of Halo 2 enough. Bunnies are probably my favourite animal, and I gravitate towards bunny. So it's no wonder I am the sort of player constantly hitting the jump key. When I see a big open space, that's the game giving me a chance to run out there and start hopping and skipping while dual wielding and blasting away at Covenant forces. You feel like an actual badass, an unstoppable machine. Then a jackal snipes you in midair and my marine backup, seeing my crumpled body, says it's time to start digging a hole. Outstanding. I tried to keep that short. No, I didn't. So let's move on to the story and characters. But before I get into the story of Halo 2, I want to bring up something about my CE video. Antonio Fernandez, Firefox005, MB Comics, and probably others said I should read the Halo books. I listened to the audiobook of The Fall of Reach, and yeah, good. Really liked it, and it helped set the stage for Combat Evolved nicely, even talking about Key's smoking pipe. Way better than the fucking TV show. Halsey was a believable character and not a comical villain. I do stand by my opinion of Kai. To be honest, Kai kicks more ass than Master Chief in this show. I would have watched her in that suit breaking bones all day. That's enough about my fetishes. Let's get to the story of Halo 2. I was really surprised at the direction Halo 2 took with its storytelling. I gotta say, no shade to Combat Evolved, it's a straight step up in scope and complexity. I will talk about the strengths, the highlights, and that means spoiling some of it. And our story begins not with humanity, but with the Covenant's holy city of High Charity. The supreme commander responsible for taking the Halo in the name of the prophets has failed. Here, before the High Council, he is stripped of his rank in disgrace and escorted away by brutes. Then we cut to the Chief as he returns to Earth, fresh from his success on the Halo, greeted in contrast with smiles and applause. As the cutscene continues, we are constantly switching between the two. While the Chief and his compatriots are decorated, the commander is humiliated. While he's insulted, the humans make light-hearted banter.
You look nice.
Thank you.
It's not just Marvel dialogue, it's done to make sure there is a stark tonal difference between the two settings. Look how bright the shots of the UNSC are, not just because of the white dress uniforms. There's this wonderful bright lighting to add visual contrast as we change from light to dark, where the will-be Arbiter is being publicly stripped and branded. It's a great way to show that there must always be a loser, and to show the fallout of the first game. You feel for the alien, even though you don't know his name. This cutscene is genius, and it never feels disjointed or ham-fisted. It's genuinely one of the best cutscenes I've ever seen, and a powerful opening. Then, as though to pencil in how seriously the Covenant take failure, as the alien's flesh sears, we cut to a blaring proximity alarm aboard the Cairo. The Covenant has come to Earth, but only with a minor fleet, and they're holding position, sending in small units to take out the orbiting Mac emplacements. And those units are about to board in a classic airlock breach scenario. It's a solid opening for a science fiction action adventure, and a fantastic way to elevate the narrative of Halo right from the start. In these opening cutscenes, they managed to take aliens I didn't really give a shit about and turn them into characters I was interested in. And this is only the beginning. As the Chief fights the forces of the Covenant on Earth, the Arbiter gains his mantle, and through his missions we learn that the Prophets are a bunch of liars who subjugate to use, not to save. Fearful for the spread of this knowledge, the elites are displaced as the primary fighting force of the Covenant, succeeded by the brutes. There's this wonderful imagery of the upright, dutiful elites having their helmets ripped from them by the gruff, more feral brutes. A changing of the guard. The elites are branded as heretics, and a civil war of sorts breaks out.
What have these brutes done? They have shed our brother's blood, and for that they must die.
The brutes and jackals on the side of the Prophets, while the elites and the grunts side with the Arbiter as they fight against their false gods. Tilk would be loving this. The story throughout is full of interesting turns, supported by a cast of good characters. Some are functional, serving only to progress the story, while others are full of character and carry an emotional weight with the player. Either way, the characters are exactly what they need to be for Halo 2. If Sergeant Johnson wasn't back in this game, I'd have rioted, but he is, and he's fucking great. He is still the absolute stereotype of a Marine Sergeant in space, and I love it. But he's got more lines and a bigger role in the story this time around. He is also the single greatest diplomat in the universe of Halo. He makes Picard look like the head of a bumbling outreach program.
Listen, you don't like me and I sure as hell don't like you. But if we don't do something, Mr. Mohawk's gonna activate this ring, and we're all gonna die.
Perhaps without realizing it, he just established relations between Earth and the Sangheili. Sangheili? Sangheili with cheese. Ha! Got him. It would be easy to think this is just lazy and brushing off the countless human lives the Covenant have taken. But truthfully, this is so perfect for the character, the context and the pacing of the game. We hate each other, but I bet we both want to see tomorrow. Now wipe that smile off your face and get me my goddamn air support, you son of a bitch. Speaking of support, thanks to viewer feedback, I'm now on Patreon. And if you like, you can support from £1 a month. And there's a link in the description below. Oh, that was so smooth, that segue. Okay, back to the video. There are other supporting characters like Key's daughter Miranda, and she's good. It's hard to really say anything about her other than she fills the role of a commander very well, and is very much the definition of a starship captain. So really just like Dad. The GRAVEMIND is good too, mysterious and an interesting development for the Flood. Very Borg Queen, but less... what's a delicate way of phrasing this? Less bangable.
And you wish to copulate?
No! I mean,
Oh, Harry, you make me weep. The Prophets are all characters when they're on screen, and very much manipulators and bickerers. Likewise, the heretic leader is fantastic, along with the chief brute known as Tartarus, although the latter doesn't really say much. He just seems to take great pleasure in taking the elite's place. The chief has more to say, but he is, of course, the chief and a man of few words. The one-liners get turned up, but not to a stupid degree, and he isn't just following commands all the time now, he's coming up with plans, and I like this. He's made to be a fighting machine, but also a leader, and to some extent, a tactician. Not that I take issue with being told what to do by Cortana all the time, don't read into that.
We're going to head through. We'll need to take a shortcut, straight through the mausoleum.
But it's good for the chief to be the driving force for some of the objectives, either just as narrative cues, or for the player themselves to fulfill. He's growing, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes. For me, the star of the show is the disgraced commander who assumes the mantle of the Arbiter. What was once a legendary title of the Sangheili people is now a mark of disgrace and a burden to become the will of the Prophets. I think the sheer evolution of the Covenant between the two games cannot be overstated. The path of the Arbiter is so satisfying to play through. There is the weight of disgrace right from the start. It doesn't take long to realise there's more going on, despite the shame.
You are the Arbiter, the will of the prophets. But these are my elites. Their lives matter to me, yours does not. That makes two of us.
Despite the implication he's expendable even by the Spec Ops commander, he's respected. Grunts are relieved to see the Arbiter turn up. Elites are impressed by his ability.
This Arbiter is an impressive killer.
The heretic leader actually tries to convince the Arbiter that his cause is just, to no avail. And before the returned guilty spark can reveal the truth about the prophets, he is silenced by the brute known as Tartarus. Still the loyal soldier, the Arbiter continues the will of the prophets until he has accomplished his final mission and exhausted his usefulness along with the rest of the elites. But an entity called the GRAVEMIND has worked to bring him and the chief together so that they may stop the Halo from activating. It has its own agenda to be sure, but they coincide for now. It also gives the Arbiter a second chance to avenge this betrayal and maybe save his people. And then we see the fallout of the Prophet's whims. Their loyal elite fighting force discarded and replaced with nothing more than bloodthirsty animals.
Where's the fun in that?
The bodies of his comrades lie broken, with brutes mocking them. And at this point, the character and the player are in the same mind. The stakes are huge for the Arbiter because his people have been dying for nothing, and you want to make them pay. But even then, even after the brutes' blatant disrespect for the elites they slaughtered, the Arbiter gives them a chance to see reason because they too are being used, and you can hear the sadness in his voice.
Tartarus, the prophets have betrayed us.
The Arbiter is a character you wholly want to succeed. They took a faceless enemy you liked sticking grenades to and turned him into a symbol. For a first-person shooter, it's more than I expected, and I really think it's fantastic. Oh yeah, and he's voiced by Keith fucking David. I'm hoping this character will be explored more in Halo 3 because he just took me completely by surprise. I mean, of course he did, he has a cloak. Of course, my other favourite is Cortana. The AI with personality returns and with even more flair than before. Cortana isn't just some machine. She shows empathy for what's happening and speaks with real emotion. She does, however, have the magnificent brain of a machine, allowing her to translate languages, access alien databases, and come up with solutions to technical problems. This makes her a logical companion for a Spartan, but what makes her a welcome companion for the player is that she's funny and quick-witted. It's very difficult to write jokes that land, especially in video games, for which it seems to be an impossibility at times. But Cortana's dialogue and timing is perfect every time, and that's due in equal parts to the writing and Jen Taylor's performance.
Protect the hierarchs! Seal the exits!
Oh, I don't think so.
Again, the Chief doesn't say too much throughout the entire game, so the talkative AI complements him perfectly, and she serves as a good way to steer the Chief through objectives. They're stronger together, and we see the character development that started in Combat Evolved begin to flourish in Halo 2. She also gets some flirtations or at least playful lines in Halo 2, and at first I thought it was another way to show how she's becoming more personable and that the Chief and her are becoming close friends, but it's more than that. In the finale of the Chief's missions, we're faced with two problems. First, the last remaining prophet known as Truth is taking an advanced forerunning ship to Earth to wipe us out and leave a bad review on Intergalactic B&B. Secondly, another Halo superweapon is about to activate. I love this sense of poetry for so many reasons. First of all, in Combat Evolved, the solution to detonate the Autumn to destroy the Halo only existed because the Autumn was shot down by Covenant forces. If it hadn't been taken down, the Chief and Cortana never would have had the means to destroy the Halo. So they bring back a story point I hadn't thought about since Chapter 2 and make it the end goal of the story. Now we see that same poetry, with the adventure coming full circle. We're back here again. Another Halo, another UNSC vessel in the heart of enemy territory.
Yeah, it's like poetry, sort of they rhyme.
I'll detonate in Emberclad's reactor just like we did the Autumn's. The blast will destroy this city and the ring. Not a very original plan,
but we know it'll work.
The game knows to draw attention to its use of a familiar story point to ensure it doesn't feel like the same old song, but it wouldn't anyway because the narrative is entirely different. It's a retreading of old ground in new shoes. Less Force Awakens, more Return of the Jedi. There's also the fact that the emotion for this moment is totally different to the first game. Combat Evolved, you're on a last push to rig the Autumn to self-destruct and then get the hell out of there for a fucking obstacle course. I can't get over that. But here, the Chief is being torn between boarding Truth's ship to stop him from destroying Earth and destroying the Halo so it can't wipe out all life in the galaxy. He can't do both, so the latter falls to Cortana. She has to stay behind.
Chief, when you get to Earth, good luck.
After I'm through with Truth.
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
Good lord, the animation, the eyes, the facial expressions. Just look at the Chief's posture here. Steve Downes does so much with the voice, but the animation work, you just know what the Chief is thinking right here, even if he didn't say it. And what's more, she chooses to remain here because it's the only way to make sure it's done properly. In my mind, this is not just a character moment for them both, but a moment that cements the fact that she's far more than an AI. So if you can still remember where I was when I started this, I was saying there's a deeper connection here beginning to flourish between Cortana and the Chief, and I love it. I always enjoy character development like this, especially when it isn't obvious, outspoken and spelled out for the player. Here is where I name drop Ada and Leon, because they are such a good depiction of a subtle and nuanced, if complicated, relationship. There are secret hidden terminals that reveal a lot of backstory and supplementary information, and these contribute a lot to the world building. Speaking of, the world building is really something special, and I think my favourite part is how the grunts are fleshed out in this game. The Ungoi were peaceful, diminutive creatures until the Covenant came and subjugated them. Utterly unable to withstand the technologically superior race, they were enslaved. It seems I'm not alone in hating the Jackals because it turns out they are major pricks who were constantly winding the Ungoi up, culminating in them trying to sterilise the Ungoi population. These fucking assholes with shields and sniper beams tried to commit genocide. Why am I not surprised? This pushed the Ungoi to their limits, and with access to Covenant technology and overwhelming numbers of a race bred for slavery, they unleashed a warlike fervour never before seen. Nobody was safe, not even the elites in the path of the Grunt Rebellion. The only way they could get them to stop was to glass their homeworld. At this, realising most of their species was gone, they stopped fighting and were as a result enlisted to bear arms as capable warriors. Yeah, so these little guys who I previously described as intelligent monkeys with guns, I'm sorry. I didn't realise how bad I felt for the Ungoi. We have a lot in common actually. We both hate the Jackals, we're smaller than we'd like to be, and we share similar interests. Remember the Brute plasma rifle? The one that fires and overheats much faster? Remember how I said this variant of the rifle was designed to strip through shields? Well, it was also specially commissioned by the Prophet of Truth as armaments for the Brutes. A weapon made to break shields quickly. As in, it's the perfect weapon to dispense with the Sangili now that the Hierarchs have cast them off as the elite fighting force of the Covenant. That's just a wonderful little bit of world building. Meanwhile, the Hierarchs are shown as both regal and powerful while acting with pettiness and immaturity. In fact, the opening assault on Earth is done by the Prophet of Regret out of anger over a single human ship taking out the Halo. This bitch got salty he got dominated, so he rage-picked DPS, rushed in without support, and still fucking lost. And in the case of pettiness, well, this guy straight up lets the other one get choked out so he can be the last prophet standing. Then there's the chanting of the Prophet Regret, which Cortana can translate.
That's what I thought he said. The Prophet of Regret is planning to activate Halo.
It's far more powerful than just having the Prophet say, "Oh, I'm gonna burn everything." It feeds into the idea that these aliens have uncovered advanced technology and used it to create a religion around themselves.
Are you sure?
I shall light this holy ring, release its cleansing flame, and burn a path into the divine beyond.
Pretty much.
Okay, so he does just come out and say it, but come on, that's funny, and it further magnifies that Cortana's personality has grown since Combat Evolved, and having her translate the feed for the Chief is a good example of show, don't tell. They take the opportunity to explain what's going on, further the world building of the Covenant, highlight Cortana's capability, and give us a new objective. They do 4 things in 20 seconds of video. I timed it. This is phenomenal storytelling, and the writers of Star Trek Discovery could learn a lot from this. Thankfully, it's too late. Bittersweet and shocking. How was this shocking? How was this a surprise? The story of Halo 2 is far and away bigger in scope than Combat Evolved, but more than that, its grand plot points are carried on the shoulders of characters you don't just like, but care about. With tight dialogue, great cutscenes, and world building far deeper than it has any right to be. Amazing. Let's move on to the sound and music. The score for Halo 2 is just superb, and from what I understand, essentially the entire soundtrack has been remastered. The original OST was of course composed by Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore, while the remaster was done by Lenny Moore, using the original as a guide and resulting in nearly every track being a straight up recreation of the original. There are some differences. I don't want to say either one is better because I don't think it's as clear cut as that. There's a sound to each track that makes them distinct from one another. I prefer the original soundtrack for Impend because of its greater emphasis on vocals, but in part, the new version is a faithful recreation in high fidelity of the original work. Now, I understand a lot of people may prefer the original OST. Please understand, I'm coming in years after release and hearing the remaster first and the original second. I like them both, and they both do things different tonally. The original is a wonderful continuation of the sound of Halo in its sequel, and the remaster is faithful to a point, yet it has its differences. In truth, it's unfair for me to judge if the remaster is as good as the original, because I've heard the former while playing the game, and the latter on its own, removed from the gameplay experience. What I will say is I think everyone involved in both soundtracks did a bang up job, and every single track feels like it belongs in a Halo game. There's no question though that O'Donnell and Salvatore heralded the return of the Chief with their soundtrack back in 2004. It's also clear that Marty O'Donnell's role as audio director really helped the game flourish, especially considering there were rumours that they were approached to recast Master Chief and Cortana with celebrity actors.
You need to bring these people, and we've gotten inquiries, believe it or not.
Julia Roberts will play Cortana.
Exactly, that's the true story. So it was.
That's a true story?
Yes, the true story. And I think Tom Cruise did the same thing with Master Chief.
I've heard that. Yeah.
And that was when we were like, oh boy, this will be a disservice to the fans.
It's crazy that without him and push from the development team, this may have become a reality. I have no issue with celebrity voice actors. I mean, Steve Downes and Jen Taylor are celebrities in their own field. But recasting people rarely has a positive impact on the creative process or product. Although sometimes it can work fucking wonders.
Next time, baby.
There is a mod by Zephorium that totally restores the original audio while using the anniversary graphics. So the option on PC does exist to experience the updated visuals with the original sound design. I love stuff like this. It shows how passionate a game's player base is. But from a review standpoint, I have no complaints about the remastered soundtrack as a newcomer. Both soundtracks are phenomenal, and you could listen to either one and be happy, because they both feature amazing orchestral music, that familiar Halo sound of science fiction majesty, paired with a fucking banging electric guitar by Steve Vai, who returned for the remaster, and rounded off with a choir that is just unforgettable. Without hyperbole, they're fantastic, and each track fits the level or the actions taking place. For me, the strongest thread in the weave will always be that phenomenal choir and the way the score uses recurring themes that keep coming back. One thing I didn't like, they took away that little guitar flare at the end of the Halo 2 theme. I was told that the remaster removed a Breaking Benjamin song from the large shootout in the mausoleum, and I was encouraged to play that part on Classic just to hear it. I had no idea who that was, I'm really sorry, but please understand, music is not my strong suit. I like the free tenors, Creedence Clearwater, and sometimes I like a bit more. Genuinely, I have no strong feelings one way or another about this, but it does highlight that there should have been an option to have the remastered visuals with the original soundtrack and vice versa, because people might appreciate that.
We have bad feeling about this. You always have bad feeling.
I was mostly impressed with the voice acting. I think some performances were better than others, there's no doubt about it.
It's going to jump inside the city.
So I will give some shout outs to the acting I enjoyed the most. I won't even keep you waiting for it. David Scully as Sergeant Johnson. He's back, he's better than ever. He's got more to say, more to do. I couldn't be happier. Comical badass and an inspiration to us all. What more can I say? He becomes the character.
I am a monument to all your sins.
D. Bradley Baker is gloriously sickening as the Gravemind. He perfectly captures the intelligence of something alien, capable of communicating, but with a line of thought truly unlike our own. He's not in the game very much, but you won't forget your encounter with the Gravemind, both because, I mean, look at it, but also because of Baker's voice work. He was also the voice of Ra's al Ghul in Arkham City, my favourite Batman game. Steve Downes as Master Chief. A solid performance, exactly what the character requires. There's no wasted time or excess emotion in his delivery. He's a hardened soldier, and sure, the Chief gets his one-liners, but Downes plays them straight, and he's fantastic. I'm glad they gave him more to say this time.
Just one question. What if you miss?
I won't.
Jen Taylor sinks back into Cortana perfectly. The delivery of every line feels right. And even now, with Cortana being far more personable in Halo 2, she still approaches those problem-solving moments as trains of thought, as though you can hear the computer processing things out loud. The dialogue for Halo 2 lets her play a little bit more with the heavier emotion, and it works really well. I could go on all day about her performance because I love it.
Bet you can't stick it. Bet you can't stick it. Bet you can't stick it. How can I say that line?
The council was overzealous. We know you are no heretic.
Michael Wincott as the Prophet of Truth. He just knocks it out of the park for a religious leader. He's soothing, calming, all the while utterly ruthless and petty. He gives that sort of performance of someone you'd regret trusting, which is probably why he's the only prophet left alive.
Let him be. The great journey waits for no one, brother. Not even you.
I actually hear a lot of the same soft tones and grandiose delivery that you get from Kai Wynn, performed by Louise Fletcher.
I am quite relieved the emissary has decided to do the right thing.
You didn't leave him much choice, did you?
I suppose you think I enjoyed forcing his hand.
She sadly passed away in 2022, but such a fantastic actress, and her portrayal of Wynn is a masterclass in a less than magnanimous religious leader.
You may go now, child.
You may leave Tartarus.
But I thought...
And take your brutes with you.
Wincott's delivery is unique and powerful. I simply mean the rulebook from which he plays is solid, and he gives a fantastic performance. I'm sorry, I'm going to stop the video to add this in because I've only just realised how much I'm referencing Star Trek in this review. When science fiction gets good, I start comparing it to Star Trek. I can't think of higher praise for Halo 2.
If they came to hear me beg, they will be disappointed.
Keith David as the Arbiter. If I had to pick some of the most distinctive voices I know, it would probably be Christopher Lloyd, Christopher Walken, Homer Simpson, and Keith David.
Welcome to hell, motherfucker!
David's voice is so distinct you can pretty much pick it out anywhere, and yet when I listen to his performance, I hear the Arbiter. He perfectly captures the alien leader on his journey of disgrace through to vengeance. That character and his voice, those are the reasons you feel for the Covenant, or at least its member races. In a way, I'm reminded of his voice work for Goliath. Different performance, but similar strong voice.
I think that we had 2,000 or 3,000 lines of unique combat dialogue in Halo 1. Now we're talking more than 14,000 lines of combat dialogue.
Dear Sarge, kicking ass in outer space, wish you were here.
I heard that.
jackass!
There are lots and lots of voice lines for the elites, the grunts, and the UNSC Marines, but without fail you'll hear one more than any other.
Hey, I heard you fellas taste just like chicken.
And I love them. They're all well performed and add so much character to playing through the game. Whether it's encouragement and veneration from your allies,
I stick my foot so far up your ass, you'll be talking shit for weeks.
or smack talk from your enemies, they usually have something fun to say. One of the grunts even called me a sissy. Now listen, Gorbaz, one of your fellow grunts heard you call the demon a sissy. Now, I've only been working at the government PR department 3 years, but I don't have to tell you what a minefield for galactic relations this is. The prophets are wishing you'd have kept your mouth shut, and the humans would have preferred it if you said femboy. The active sounds are all good. Every gun in Halo has a distinct sound, from the punch-throwing bang of the shotgun to the fast discharging coils of the plasma rifle. Every part of the needler sounds exactly how it should from the sight of it. Firing off 2 SMGs, just listen to this. However, there is one aspect of sound design I think Halo 2 comes up short in, and that is ambient sound. The artificial environments sound good, the bowels of the industrial station. The halls of High Charity. But the natural environments just sound a bit lifeless. There's not much going on here except some wind, very rarely a bird, and this stream is just straight up silent. This may be an issue with the remaster, but switching between the two, I barely noticed a difference in some places. It's such a shame. Just some parrot calls in the jungle and some birds and bees in the coniferous forest would have made all the difference. I appreciate how much effort went into the vehicle sounds because it's so important in sci-fi and often overlooked. The UNSC vehicles all have that familiar human sound to them of a motor running. While the Covenant vehicles sound appropriately alien. Overall, I love the sound of Halo 2's remaster. I think graphics are a really boring thing to judge a game on, so I'm doing visuals and spectacle, and that's how dazzling and interesting it is to me within the style of the game. But I'm not in a position to actually review the original Halo 2's visuals. I haven't played the game with them on. This will be a review of the remaster, and I've said before, I'm one of those people who does not have an issue with HD texture mods or anything like that. I like my enhanced visuals. For Combat Evolved, the remaster was anything but. The soul and essence of the game wasn't captured, and the game looked worse than it did originally. If the Combat Evolved remaster was a slap in the face of the original's aesthetic, a cheap neon coat of paint over a classic, then Halo 2's remaster is a devoted artist studying a work and not just replicating it or spraying glitter on top, but understanding the nuance and style before recreating it, and taking some artistic liberties that aren't necessarily faithful to the extreme, but don't look out of place in the Halo setting. It's a very long way of saying I like it very much, and of course there are differences, there are instances where the mood is changed or even lost, but by and large it's an improvement. Most importantly, I never once thought, this isn't Halo. The environments are just gorgeous, such wonderful colours, lighting and stark shapes to navigate. There is something about the greenery that captures those memories of the first Halo, that keeps it distinctive enough to feel like you're on a similar ring, not the same ring. The first is by dropping you off in a tropical jungle-like environment, complete with ancient ruins. Fern and thick vine-ridden trees populate a space covered in yellowish-green grass. Water crashes down over warm grey rocks, all beneath a beautiful blue sky where alien creatures fly with a storm on the far horizon. It's not familiar, but you feel like you belong here.
You always bring me to such nice places.
And we do eventually progress to the classic forested look of Halo. fir trees coupled with that rich green grass, sometimes in that lovely noon sunshine, and other times there is a grey and misty, wet ambience. You feel right at home here. Then there is the snowy region you traverse through here at night time, with this wonderful dark snowfall ever present. The black snow-covered rocks are perfectly contrast with the bright fires of burning wreckage and glowing energy chasms that dot the landscape. This might have been just a flat snow-covered region, but no, they turn it into a nighttime light show of colour and weather effects. What Arbiter doesn't want to go out and play in that snow? This isn't even talking about the winding streets of Mombasa, the familiar but updated Covenant corridors, and of course the look of the Halo structures themselves. Hell, even the gas mining outpost looks great, all rusty and banged up but still functional. Quark would snap this place up, you can smell opportunity here. All of the interiors are distinct to the culture that built them and the function that they serve. You just know this station is heavy industry. And you can tell this place is used for meditation, even if it is an alien garden. I did a few comparison shots, and of course the original Halo is of its time, but if I'm being honest, I think Halo 2 may actually look worse in some ways than Combat Evolved. A lot of this I've read is due to Halo 2's lighting limitations. If I had to say what the most repeated sentiments were when reading comments for my Combat Evolved review, it would be 3 things. Good choice using the original visuals. Make sure you use the remaster for Halo 2, and there is a tutorial for the flashlight. However, a couple of people did say to play Halo 2 with the original visuals, and I apologise, but in this instance my personal preference falls with the remaster and the majority. That doesn't mean the original is irrelevant or bad, it just means I prefer the remaster, and in almost every respect, it's fantastic. Oh, almost. This is a very minor and specific criticism, but remember how I said the original and cinematic Cortana looked good? Well, in the remaster, and I don't know why, her head and neck proportions are all wrong. Overall, it's not a bad model, I just think the remastered version looks less powerful, and her face looks nothing like either the original or the cinematics. It's just weird to me that the second most important character in the game would have a scuffed model. I know it's the definition of nitpicking, but I bring it up because genuinely the character models in this remaster are fantastic. The improvements are night and day. Hell, Sergeant Johnson looks amazing and near enough to his cinematic counterpart. Look at this photogenic bastard.
Don't look at me, look at them!
All of the character models are fantastic with really detailed faces, and I don't just mean in the cinematics, they're great in game.
Have we tried reasoning with them?
However, I did notice some blocky shadows on the faces in the brighter areas of the game. You might have seen something similar if you've ever played Monster Hunter World. I found the fix for this was to turn post-processing off. I couldn't tell you what the difference was compared to having it on. More proof that a cohesive art style and colour palette are better than any screen filter. The aliens are just wonderful in their design, and I like the expanded roster of enemies. Also, the sheer amount of variations means you'll always be fighting someone who looks a bit different to the guy next to him. I said before that the design brief was similar to Team Fortress 2. You can always tell who you're fighting just from the silhouette, and it's no different here. Especially with the brutes, they're just bulky enough to recognise them from their outline, and the animation change when they enrage is a clear indicator to get out of the way. I think the changes to the Flood show who are infected elites and who are infected humans far better. And I like the big wide Flood zombies that take up lots of personal space. The animations are just great. It's the cooling off effect on your energy weapons. I love how the Chief stretches his fingers out when they overheat. It really gives you an idea of just how hot those guns get. The lighting effects are just so pretty, with wonderful colours being cast on the walls and the scenery. It's fantastic. The in-game cinematics were remastered by Blur Studio, and they are just absolutely phenomenal. To my knowledge, there is no way to switch back to the original cutscenes, and that's a definite shortcoming of the remaster. But from a spectacle point of view, just holy shit, look at them. Gorgeous detail and colour palette, and never overbearing with their post-production. Combined with movie-quality cinematography, the likes of which I haven't seen since... I mean, do I even have to say his name anymore?
I'll make sure you're the next to go, Sadler.
From the vibrant splash of your plasma rifles to the beautiful orange explosions of your grenades, there is always something for you to feast your eyes on in Halo. Okay, it's summary time, and I'm starting with the negatives because I want to end on a positive note. The challenging Spartan checks of Combat Evolved return, but there are a couple of areas you'd rather forget about. Kind of unsatisfying final boss. The Master Chief Collection requires a Microsoft account, and I hate all these accounts piling up, but I did have one already at least. On to the good. No library level. Thank fuck. Superb gameplay with multiple systems that elevate Halo once again. A story that is layered and always moving forwards. Beautiful to look at and easy on the ears. Halo 2 is just fun. It's traded in a lot of the more open, explorative areas for tighter, controlled open spaces, but it isn't to the detriment of the game. It's still the same sandbox as before, and with more toys. Halo 2 is fantastic, and it's a shooter I might find myself replaying. After the groundbreaking success of Combat Evolved, despite its troubled development, and having to cut back the scope of the game, a sequel was of course hotly anticipated. Hopefully with more experience and funding under their belts, Bungie wouldn't have quite such trouble with a sequel. In fact, they made plans to add some of that cut content back in. What a great idea. Unfortunately, they had a 16 times the detail moment, and according to designer Jamie Griesmer, the team tripled everything. That's the phrase he used to describe how far they wanted to push their ambitions, including rebuilding the game engine, changing the physics system, and prototyping a new shadow stencil lighting system.
So we're in good shape, I think. Ask me again in 2 months, and when I'm bloodshot eyes and I haven't bathed in 3 days, and I'll probably tell you something different.
Looking back, Griesmer said they tried to cram it too full and paid the price. Yeah, sort of like Halo 1.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
I joke, but I can't imagine what development is like and what these guys were doing, and I respect the ups and downs of the work and the desire to be ambitious. I love that in games because it usually creates excellence, but it's still funny. Even the story went over some rocky roads, including one arc where Miranda Keyes strapped a bomb to Master Chief and pushed him down a hole.
More time would be welcome.
CJ doesn't need us until...
If we could have some more time, that would be great, but the fans are screaming.
More time, more time.
Yeah, we could have used a lot more time.
If you can invent a 75-hour day, you'd be my best friend.
We're not asking to work shorter days. We're asking to work as hard as we're working right now, but just 2 weeks.
To get the game back on track, not only did they scale back the scope, they cancelled their other project, Phoenix, and brought the teams together to finish the fight. And I haven't even mentioned building in a new multiplayer framework for the internet. Another problem. The Xbox 360 was on the way.
A console that's about to change digital entertainment forever.
This meant their extended development time, secured by Ed Fries in the boardroom, was only good until Christmas. The crunch was insane. Design lead Paul Bertone had to leave his dog at a kennel for 2 months, spending the final nights of development in his office. If you're interested, I recommend you check out the making of Halo 2 on the Neo Gamer channel. And I recommend both The Untold Story of Halo by Steve Hask of Vice, and honestly the Wikipedia page, it's surprisingly good. Reminded me of Resident Evil 4's Wikipedia page, and there's loads of links there with stuff to read.
If you can set it up so that each new situation is a problem that the player has to solve, like, he can do that over and over and over again.
But they made it, same as before, and in what is the craziest thing ever, the release date was announced by Peter Moore via a tattoo on his arm. What the fuck? The hype was through the roof. There was even a pre-release celebrity party where they did a home all-up sci-fi style and had roaming Cortanas. Apparently even Jolene Blalock was on the guest list, who I really liked as T'Pol. She doesn't get enough credit. Of course the French leaked their version of the game, fucking typical, but didn't matter. Bungie made their November 9th release date, selling nearly 2.5 million copies, making around $125 million in 24 hours. It beat Pirates of the Caribbean as the highest grossing release in entertainment history at the time. So despite all that mismanagement and dangerous levels of ambition, all that crunch and boardroom drama, they made it. And you know what? It was pretty good. Of course, my source for all that is Wikipedia, so it might be all bullshit. I just thought it was interesting that they made the same mistakes again, only bigger, and still made a critical success of a game. Once again though, they left it on a cliffhanger, so it's like the man said,
times change.
Oh, no, I was thinking more good things come in threes. And from just one expression, we all instantly know what Leon's thinking.
Long time no see.
Ada.
Leon, you have to find some way to get inside.
Ideally, you want to be a ghost, unseen, a silent assassin.